The night sky over Odessa didn't just burn, it screamed. In the early hours of October 9th, what should have been another quiet coastal night erupted into chaos as Russian Geran 2 drones descended on the port of Chornomorsk. Within seconds, the darkness was ripped apart by fireballs that turned the docks into a war zone. Witnesses said the ground shook as warehouses, fuel tanks, and cranes vanished into a storm of flame. But this wasn't just another strike. It was a message, a calculated hit deep inside Ukraine's critical supply artery. What exactly was burning that night? Civilian goods or Western weapons hidden in plain sight? Tonight on Defense TV, we break down what really happened in Odessa, the weapon behind the chaos, and what this means for the future of modern drone warfare. It began just past midnight, when the port city of Odessa lay under a heavy, uneasy silence. For a few brief moments, the only sound was the gentle pulse of the Black Sea brushing against the docks. Then came the unmistakable drone, a low mechanical hum that sent chills through anyone who had learned to fear it. Within seconds, the hum multiplied. Witnesses later said it sounded like a swarm of angry hornets, each one carrying death in its wings. The sky lit up as explosions shattered the horizon. Fireballs erupted over the port of Chornomorsk, also known as Ilychivsk, a vital artery of Ukraine's maritime lifeline. The blast was visible for miles. Windows trembled across the city as the shock wave rolled inland. Moments later, the night turned orange, an inferno rising from what had once been rows of warehouses and shipping containers. Locals filmed from their balconies, their cameras shaking as multiple secondary explosions tore through the darkness. It was more than just fuel burning. Something inside those storage zones was detonating with military precision. Russia's defense ministry claimed its Geran 2 drones, a derivative of Iran's Shahed 136 platform, had successfully targeted a concentration of Western-supplied munitions and fuel depots. Ukrainian officials countered, insisting it was a civilian logistics site. But the chain of explosions told a different story, one of stored ammunition cooking off in rapid succession. Within hours, Chornomorsk was engulfed in flames. The port's cranes reduced to skeletal metal silhouettes against a sea of fire. Emergency teams struggled to approach. The heat was unbearable, and every few minutes, another explosion rocked the site. By dawn, the port looked like the aftermath of an air raid from another era. A grim reminder that this was not just a regional skirmish, but a high-tech war fought in real time. The smell of burning oil, melted metal, and scorched earth clung to the city for days. Analysts quickly identified the strike as one of the most devastating drone operations of the war so far. At the heart of the assault was the Geran 2, a loitering munition that has redefined low-cost warfare. Weighing around 200 kilograms, carrying a high-explosive fragmentation warhead, and capable of flying up to 2,000 kilometers, this drone is neither fast nor elegant, but it is brutally effective, cheap to produce, easy to deploy, and able to overwhelm defenses through sheer numbers. It represents a new age of attritional drone warfare, one where precision and affordability combine to devastating effect. Russian forces have embraced this doctrine, using swarm tactics that make interception nearly impossible. In Odessa, witnesses reported wave after wave of drones approaching from the sea, their engines echoing over the black water before disappearing into the blinding chaos. For Ukraine, the attack was a nightmare scenario. The port of Odessa isn't just a trade hub, it's a lifeline. Since losing Mariupol and Berdyansk, it has become Ukraine's last major gateway to the world. Every ship that docks here carries vital supplies, and every warehouse holds the fuel and ammunition needed to keep the front lines alive. Destroying those facilities is more than tactical. It's strategic, psychological, and symbolic. The message is clear. Russia can strike not only soldiers in the trenches, but the very arteries that sustain Ukraine's war effort, and perhaps by extension, the Western logistics pipeline feeding it. Satellite images released the following day confirmed the scale of destruction. Entire sections of the port were reduced to charred ruins. Dozens of containers lay scattered and twisted, melted into unrecognizable forms. The fires reportedly burned for over 12 hours before firefighters could contain them. Power outages rippled through nearby districts. Communications were disrupted. And while Ukrainian officials promised to restore operations, the blow to morale was undeniable. Odessa, the city of sailors, trade, and defiance, had been reminded of its vulnerability. The attack didn't happen in isolation. Just a week earlier, on October 3rd, similar drone raids had struck fuel and power facilities in the region, triggering widespread blackouts. That night, residents of Odessa watched from their rooftops as fiery trails streaked across the sky. Each new explosion told them that the air defense systems, though improved, were still struggling to counter the sheer volume of drones being deployed. Russian strategy was evolving, no longer relying on sporadic strikes, but orchestrated waves designed to paralyze infrastructure and stretch Ukrainian response capacity thin. For military analysts in the West, the October 9th strike raised serious questions. How was Russia coordinating these multi-wave attacks so effectively? Was satellite data being used to synchronize swarm patterns? Were these drones operating autonomously in groups or controlled remotely by human operators? Early assessments suggest a hybrid system, partially pre-programmed, partially guided, allowing flexibility and redundancy. Whatever the method, the outcome was undeniable, a synchronized and highly destructive operation. But beneath the tactics lies a deeper concern. If Odessa's ports are being systematically dismantled, Ukraine's ability to sustain prolonged warfare becomes increasingly uncertain. Maritime infrastructure isn't just about trade. It's about fuel, weapons, and humanitarian aid. Each destroyed warehouse represents more than a material loss. It's a blow to national resilience. And for the people living in Odessa, every air raid siren is a reminder that their city stands on the edge of the war's most volatile front. Still, amid the ruins, something else lingers: defiance. The people of Odessa have endured sieges before. They've rebuilt their city from ashes more than once. But this time, the war is fought not only with bombs, but with technology, misinformation, and psychological warfare. The burning of Chornomorsk is a sign of how modern conflicts are changing, fought across skies, data networks, and global supply chains. For every drone that strikes a port, another battle begins in the digital shadows of strategy rooms and intelligence networks. The question that remains is chilling. If Russia can coordinate such precision strikes deep into Ukraine's logistical heart, what comes next? The answer may lie not in the skies over Odessa, but in how Ukraine and its Western partners adapt to a world where swarms of machines can cripple nations overnight. As dawn broke over Odessa, the scale of the damage became painfully clear. Smoke plumes drifted lazily over the Black Sea, dark and heavy, staining the horizon like a scar that would not fade. For those living nearby, the silence that followed the bombardment was almost worse than the explosions themselves. The port, once a bustling gateway to global trade, now looked like a graveyard of steel and fire. But what many did not realize that morning was that this was not an isolated strike. It was part of something much bigger, a pattern, a doctrine. Across the past year, Russia's drone warfare strategy has evolved from experimental to systematic. The Geran 2, initially dismissed as a crude copy of Iranian hardware, has become a cornerstone of Moscow's low-cost precision campaign. Analysts in Washington and London now describe this as the attrition by 1,000 cuts doctrine, a long-term approach aimed at draining Ukraine's logistics, morale, and industrial capacity without expending high-value munitions. Each drone strike may cost Russia a fraction of a missile, but the cumulative effect is devastating. What makes this new era of warfare so unsettling is its accessibility. Drones like the Geran 2 are not complex machines built in secret military labs. They are assembled from commercially available components, simple engines, off-the-shelf GPS units, and composite materials that can be sourced globally. This simplicity makes them cheap to produce and easy to replace. In the hands of a military power like Russia, it becomes a game of numbers. Overwhelm the enemy with quantity, and quality becomes secondary. Odessa was a perfect target for that philosophy. Vast, exposed, and impossible to protect entirely. Intelligence sources suggest that Russia has increasingly refined its drone swarm tactics using battlefield data collected from hundreds of prior strikes. Each attack provides telemetry, interception data, and defense response times. The information is then fed back into algorithmic systems designed to optimize flight paths and attack waves. In simpler terms, every drone loss teaches Moscow how to make the next one more lethal. The October 9th assault was the latest iteration of this learning curve, and its results were chillingly effective. Meanwhile, Ukraine has found itself in a constant race to adapt. Western-supplied air defense systems like the NASAMS and IRIS-T have proven effective, but they are expensive and limited in number. Each Geran drone that costs a few $1,000s forces Ukraine to spend tens or even hundreds of thousands to shoot it down. It's a war of economics as much as explosives. Kiev's defenders now refer to the nightly drone barrages as the Mosquito War. Relentless, exhausting, and psychologically draining. Every alert, every distant buzz in the night sky forces civilians and soldiers alike to wonder, which one will get through this time? For the United States and NATO observers, the situation has become a live demonstration of how future conflicts will unfold. Gone are the days when wars were dominated by tanks and jets. Today's battles are fought by algorithms, small autonomous craft, and long-range intelligence networks. The Odessa strike illustrates a harsh truth. The balance of warfare is shifting from manpower to machine logic. The countries that can adapt fastest will shape the next century of conflict. The geopolitical implications extend beyond Ukraine. Western military planners now worry that the same tactics could be used elsewhere, by state or non-state actors. Cheap drones capable of carrying explosive payloads are no longer a novelty. They are a revolution. The line between military and civilian infrastructure is blurring, and Odessa's burning port stands as a warning to every coastal city reliant on vulnerable logistics hubs. If drones can cripple Ukraine's largest port, they could easily threaten oil refineries in the Middle East, cargo depots in Asia, or power plants in Europe. Warfare, once bound by geography, has gone global. Back in Ukraine, investigators sifting through the ruins at Chornomorsk discovered more than just fragments of drones. They found traces of Western-made materials, crates, ammunition markings, and storage seals that hinted at foreign shipments. While the exact nature of the cargo remains classified, it reignited the debate over whether these ports were serving purely civilian purposes. Russian state media immediately seized on the findings, framing the strike as a justified blow against NATO intervention. Ukraine, on the other hand, accused Moscow of spreading disinformation to mask war crimes. The truth, as always, lies buried beneath layers of propaganda, smoke, and ash. But propaganda is a weapon, too. Both sides are fighting not just on the battlefield, but in the information space, a modern theater where perception shapes reality. Russian outlets portray the Geran strikes as surgical, precise, and righteous. Ukrainian channels show the human cost: firefighters battling infernos, families huddled in basements, children crying under the glow of burning fuel tanks. Each image fuels a different narrative, and each narrative sustains a different kind of war. The psychological toll is immense. Civilians live in a state of constant hypervigilance, their nights fractured by sirens and the mechanical buzz of death above their rooftops. Still, amid the despair, resilience endures. Within days of the Odessa attack, workers began clearing debris, cranes were repaired, and the port's surviving terminals resumed partial operation. The Ukrainian government vowed to rebuild and harden critical infrastructure, while Western allies promised additional air defense systems. Yet beneath those promises lies a sobering realization: no defense is perfect. In modern warfare, adaptation is endless. Each countermeasure invites a counter-response. As the weeks passed, satellite imagery revealed something else: new construction within Russian-occupied territories, likely drone manufacturing and storage facilities. Analysts speculate that Moscow intends to ramp up domestic production, freeing itself from Iranian supply chains. If true, it signals a long-term commitment to drone warfare as a central pillar of Russia's strategy. The Geran may have begun as an import, but in Odessa, it became a symbol of a new doctrine. A doctrine that values persistence over precision, psychology over power, and attrition over annihilation. For Americans watching from afar, this isn't just another foreign conflict. It's a glimpse into the future. The tools of Odessa, cheap drones, real-time intelligence, and algorithmic targeting are the same tools that could redefine global security. Every explosion in that Ukrainian port echoes a question that resonates in Pentagon war rooms and Silicon Valley boardrooms alike. What happens when machines can wage war faster, cheaper, and more relentlessly than humans ever could? The answer may decide not only who wins in Ukraine, but what warfare itself becomes in the decades to come. By mid-October, the flames that once devoured Odessa's skyline had faded into columns of smoke drifting out over the sea. The fires were out, but the message lingered. For those who study war, the events of October 9th marked a turning point, a moment when the future of warfare announced itself in roaring engines and digital precision. The war in Ukraine had always been brutal, but now it had evolved into something even more complex, a contest of endurance, adaptation, and machine intelligence. Satellite imagery taken days after the attack revealed an eerie pattern. The drone strike zones weren't random. Each impact appeared to target key logistical nodes, fuel depots, loading cranes, energy substations, and storage warehouses, laid out like pieces in a chess game. Analysts at Western think tanks noticed that the attack trajectory formed a semicircular path across southern Ukraine, connecting Odessa to Mykolaiv and Zaporizhzhia. This wasn't just about destroying a port, it was about dissecting an entire supply chain, one that fed Ukraine's war machine and its economy alike. In military terms, this level of precision with low-cost drones represents a staggering leap in asymmetric warfare. For decades, Western militaries relied on expensive precision-guided munitions and complex air campaigns. But Russia, with its Geran 2 and similar loitering munitions, demonstrated that with enough scale, simplicity can defeat sophistication. A single missile costs millions. A drone swarm can deliver the same result at a fraction of the cost. It's warfare democratized, terrifyingly efficient, ruthlessly pragmatic. For the Ukrainian defenders, the challenge has been existential. Every new wave of drones forces a strategic recalibration. Should scarce air defenses protect the front lines, or should they guard the ports and cities that sustain them? The balance between military necessity and civilian protection grows thinner by the day. Odessa, long a symbol of resilience, has become a case study in vulnerability. Once the beating heart of Ukraine's maritime identity, it now stands as a testament to how modern conflict erases the boundaries between military and civilian domains. Meanwhile, the people of Odessa endure. Each night they hear the sirens and the distant hum of engines. Each morning they wake to shattered glass and burned out skylines. And yet they rebuild. Volunteers organize cleanup efforts. Firefighters stand ready for the next strike. Shopkeepers reopen their doors, even with the smell of fuel still thick in the air. To them, this war is not just fought on the front lines. It's fought in the will to continue existing. In that, they mirror the spirit that once defined cities like London during the Blitz or New York in the days after 9/11. Wounded but unbroken. Internationally, Odessa has become a symbol of the new age of warfare, one broadcast across social media in real time. Each drone's flight path is tracked by civilian observers on Telegram. Each explosion is analyzed by open-source investigators within minutes. Wars once waged in secrecy are now public theater, dissected by millions across digital platforms. The global audience sees war not through filtered reports, but through shaky phone videos, infrared footage, and satellite data. The battlefield has expanded beyond geography. It now includes the information space itself. Western defense strategists are taking notes. The Pentagon's after-action briefings increasingly reference Ukraine as a laboratory for the future of warfare. The lessons learned from Odessa, Bakhmut, and Kharkiv will shape military doctrine for decades. The rise of autonomous systems, the value of redundancy, the need for distributed logistics, These are not theoretical discussions anymore. They're survival strategies. America's next conflict, wherever it may be, will be fought with the ghosts of Odessa whispering lessons in the background. But for Russia, the success of the Geran 2 program signals more than tactical efficiency. It represents a new kind of psychological warfare. Each drone that pierces Ukrainian skies is a reminder that nowhere is safe. It's a tool of fear as much as destruction. The sound alone, that distinct mechanical whine, has become a weapon. Civilians report panic attacks at its approach. Soldiers describe sleepless nights spent waiting for the next wave. The psychological fatigue it creates cannot be measured in numbers, but it breaks down resistance just as effectively as explosives. The irony is that this weapon of terror is, by design, inefficient in conventional terms. Its slow speed and limited payload make it an easy target, theoretically. But theory doesn't match reality. In the chaos of war, when air defenses are stretched thin and response times measured in seconds, even an imperfect weapon can dominate the battlefield. Russia has turned the Geran 2's flaws into strengths. Every drone that gets through is a victory. Every one that's shot down still drains resources, ammunition, and human energy. It's warfare by exhaustion, calculated, methodical, relentless. For Ukraine, the counter-strategy now lies in innovation. Engineers across the country are developing counter-drone technologies, jamming systems, AI-driven interceptors, and improvised mobile defenses. Western allies are supplying radar upgrades and electronic warfare units. Yet the race remains uneven. Each night brings new challenges. Each adaptation is met by another from the opposing side. The war over Odessa is no longer just a regional struggle. It's a live demonstration of the future, where technology evolves in real time and human endurance becomes the ultimate weapon. And then there's the question no one dares to ask aloud. How far will this escalation go? Every drone strike risks retaliation. Every new defense system invites a countermeasure. The line between tactical and strategic warfare grows thinner with each passing month. If ports, power plants, and fuel depots are now fair game, where does it stop? For Western observers, Odessa's destruction is both a warning and a lesson that wars of the future will not wait for declarations or front lines. They will begin silently, with small machines crossing borders in the night, and end with cities burning before the world even understands what happened. By the time the sun rose over Odessa on October 10th, the fires had subsided, but the consequences were just beginning. Ukraine's logistical network was crippled, Russia's drone doctrine was validated, and the rest of the world was left staring into a mirror that reflected its own vulnerabilities. Every port, every data center, every fuel depot, all potential targets in an era where war has no front lines. As the smoke drifted over the Black Sea, one truth became impossible to ignore. The battlefield of tomorrow had already arrived, and it came on wings. The fires over Odessa were more than just the aftermath of a strike. They were a signal flare for the future. The October 9th attack on Chornomorsk was not about territory or revenge. It was about evolution, the evolution of warfare itself. In those brief hours of chaos, the world saw what happens when machines, algorithms, and human will collide on the same battlefield. No jets, no massive armored divisions, just the quiet, buzzing sound of drones rewriting the rules of modern combat. For Ukraine, the loss was painful but not unfamiliar. The country has learned to survive in the face of overwhelming odds. Every time the smoke clears, rebuilding begins. Every crater is filled, every shattered window replaced. But the deeper question remains, how long can a nation fight when its lifelines are constantly under attack? Odessa, once a symbol of trade and prosperity, now stands as a monument to endurance. Its burning skyline reflects not just destruction, but defiance, a reminder that in war, survival is its own kind of victory. For Russia, the strike represented more than a tactical win. It was a statement, a demonstration of capability and intent, proof that even low-cost technology, used with precision and persistence, can bring powerful nations to their knees. It is psychological warfare disguised as strategy, the kind that chips away at morale as effectively as bombs do at buildings. And for the rest of the world, that message is chilling. No one is immune. The next war might not be fought with fleets and divisions, but with swarms and data, invisible, silent, and unstoppable until it's too late. In the control rooms of the Pentagon, NATO headquarters, and beyond, the lesson of Odessa is already being studied. Defense experts call it the dawn of distributed warfare, where power is no longer measured in the number of tanks, but in the precision of code. The weapon that changed Odessa wasn't born in a factory. It was born in the algorithmic logic of 21st century conflict. And as technology accelerates, the balance of power will shift with it. Those who fail to adapt will fall behind. Those who learn from Odessa will shape the wars to come. As the embers fade over the Black Sea, one truth remains. The battlefield of tomorrow is already here. The line between soldier and civilian, target and infrastructure, defense and offense, all are disappearing. War no longer begins with an invasion. It begins with a signal, a launch, a hum in the dark. And that's why Defense TV exists, to analyze, to explain, and to expose the reality behind modern warfare, to show what the headlines don't. Because understanding war is not glorifying it, it's preparing for it. Stay alert, stay informed, and if you believe knowledge is the best defense, subscribe now to Defense TV.